All right, good morning. You guys enjoy the keynote? Yeah? I think it was pretty exciting. I was sitting behind and watching it sort of inverted from the, they projected and you see everything inverted. But I think it was awesome. Lots of interesting things coming up. So I think it's going to be a really nice few months ahead. Lots more exciting features coming out. This particular session, it's about giving you a tour of the product, and we'll talk about that. But before, my name is Kamal Hathi. I'm the general manager for the Power BI product. And with me is Adam Wilson.
Good morning. My name is Adam Wilson, and I'm the group program manager for the Power BI service.
And the two of us are going to sort of tag team. It's mostly him doing the work. I'm sort of hang out here and say a few words and then pretend like I know what's going on and nod my head. But Adam's going to really sit down and show us the product. And what you want to do, as the title implies, is there are two parts to this session. Part one is a whirlwind tour of the product. And this is really useful if you haven't used Power BI much. And let me see, how many people out here are using it a lot, the product, and how many are sort of new? So kind of even, how many are new to the product, first time? Okay, so we have a good mix. So if you're new to the product, certainly you'll see, wow, it's all the different parts and pieces. If you're using it already, you might discover something new, but you also might find how to sort of talk about this product to other people, if you have friends and others who want to understand what it is, so you can get a feeling for what the product is in its entirety, end to end, not just one piece you might be working on, not just the desktop, not just mobile, not just the Power BI service in the cloud. We also want to cover this part of this session, what is new? What is something that you may not have seen before because it's net new to the product? So we're doing these two parts. And before we jump in, I'm going to recap a little bit about, kind of funny seeing myself on the screen. It's very self-referential. We're going to talk about a little bit more recap from the keynote about Power BI in its pieces, so it gives context to the demos that Adam will launch into. So again, I think by now you all understand and agree, Power BI is not your regular old BI tool. It's really what we call, it's modern. It's built in a modern era. It's built in a time when mobile, AI, real-time streaming, cloud, these are the fundamental pieces of what makes Power BI really a useful solution that you can deploy inside your organizations. And the way we talk about it is we say, hey, Power BI is really something that allows you to get any data that you want, in any way you want to work with it, and deploy it anywhere. So let's break that down a little bit. Certainly, the number of data sources you can get with the Power BI is huge, growing all the time. If you go to the Power BI desktop, you can see pretty much anything you connect to. But it's more than just sources in the desktop. When we say any way, we also say that you can connect to sources like Salesforce or Google Analytics or Dynamic CRM or Zora or QuickBooks or whatever. They're like 103 different what you call content packs that allow you as a user to connect to these sources and out of the box get dashboards, reports, data sets all packaged up to consume immediately without requiring an analyst, without requiring IT. Literally, it's what we call 5 minutes to wow. You sign in, put in your password, and boom, you should be able to get value immediately from Power BI. So these content packs are really important in setting up your data and getting a solution out of the box. The other thing that's really cool about Power BI, and what you did not see in the keynote, is this notion of real time. And when we say real time, it's not just about connecting to data sets in a live database in the back end, getting queries that resolve in live fashion. We're talking real time, as in streaming data coming in and landing from IoT devices, from social media, from all kinds of sources, and giving you truly a forward-looking view of a business, current view of the business, not looking behind in history, but real time as you're working. You get a 360-degree view of a business and you go along with it. So we'll cover that a little bit, and Adam gets in. We'll certainly do the natural language pieces you saw in the keynote. We'll talk about custom visuals, Office integration, all the ways you can work with Power BI. And then the fact you can work with this data, we can work in all these different ways. You can consume it in any fashion that works for you. You consume it obviously on the web. The Power BI SaaS service allows you to go in any browser very, very quickly, without any deployments, to just start getting the value from your data, your dashboards or reports or solutions. But you can also consume it any mobile device you want, Android, iOS, Windows, no problem. you can embed it deeply inside any application that you have building yourself or others have built for you. So for example, if you use Dynamics AX, which is Microsoft's ERP type solution, you get Power BI built in completely seamlessly and transparently inside the product, and you can start using it. And you saw some of that in the keynote with integration with Teams. You go into Teams, Power BI just sort of pops inside it. It's part of the native Chrome that it works in. So anyway, this is how Power BI as a product comes together. Any data, any way you want to work with it, consume it anywhere you want. So with that said, we're going to jump in now, and Adam is going to take us through the first part of our demos and really sort of start showing these different pieces we talked about. So Adam, all yours.
Thanks, Kamal. So I'm going to take the next 10 minutes and give you really a whirlwind tour of all of those things that makes Power BI different. And I'm going to start here right in the Power BI interface. Really the easiest way to get going with Power BI is using our SaaS content packs. As Kamal mentioned, these are direct connections to services that you might already use in your business. It is so easy to connect to a SaaS content pack. It's great if you want to demo it to a coworker or if you just want a quick start to get some analytics that are pre-built on one of these data sources. So I went to get data, and I can see the list of all of the different SaaS content packs we support. Everything from marketing analytics with Adobe Analytics, app figures maybe for your mobile app that you're running. If you use Azure, you can get your Azure audit logs, a whole set here. And we're releasing more every month. For example, this past month we released the Office 365 content pack. And this one is really great for people that run large Office 365 deployments because it gives you a dashboard with all of the key metrics around adoption for Office 365. So you can see how well you're doing and where you could improve. But for today, I'm not going to connect to this one. I'm going to connect to a perennial favorite. It's one of the first ones we did, Google Analytics. Almost everyone has a website or a blog or something where you have visitors going to it. And with our Google Analytics content pack, in a few clicks, you can get a pre-made dashboard with this information. So I hit Get It Now here, and all I have to do is enter my Google credentials, which I've already done behind the scenes. So I'll choose to use my account. And then I just pick which particular Google property I want to create a dashboard for. So in this case, I'll choose the measured product and hit Import. So what's happening now is Power BI is connecting to Google Analytics and bringing in all the metrics I need for a great dashboard on my web analytics. But it's more than just the raw data. All of our SaaS content packs include pre-built dashboards and reports. And these are built by real experts, in this case, in digital marketing. So you don't have to start from a blank page. You can start from a dashboard that gives you real insights. OK, so I've gone ahead and connected here. I'm just going to go to that dashboard. Great. And so here is my Google Analytics dashboard. Whoops, give it 1 second. Great. OK, so I can see a bunch of tiles that show me my performance, the number of sessions I have on different days of the week, which browsers are being used. And I can click into this to get a rich interactive report so that I can explore the trends over time. Now, clearly, I haven't been focusing much on my blog since we've been preparing for the conference. I need to go back and work on that. But the great thing about SaaS content packs is they can also be a starting point. You can change them and modify them for your own needs. So for example, I can hit Edit Report here, and maybe this is for an e-commerce website, and I really care about customers in the United States, because that's what I'm focusing on now. So I could go ahead and take the country field here, and I could just add a filter to my page. And I might just say, just look at the United States. And very quickly, I can customize this report to be whatever I want. Now, another part of Power BI is that it lets you create a dashboard that is your own personal dashboard. It's your 360-degree view of what's important for you as an individual. I already have my own dashboard, but I'm just going to pin some of these tiles to it. So I can hit the pin visual icon here, and I can pin it to my personal dashboard. Maybe I'll also pin this one as well. And once I've done that, I'll go show you the dashboard here. So here we can see I have one dashboard with a whole bunch of different information on it, and I can rearrange it to suit my needs. Here's the data up here that I pinned from Google Analytics. I also have another report that shows me sales performance, and I have a whole bunch of other things. So really with Power BI, you can create that one view that you can look at on the web, on mobile, anywhere that gives you that full picture of what matters to you.
That radiation level is really worrying, Adam. What the hell's going on?
I think we should go look at that. I don't know what kind of factory I run in this demo, but I don't know. Any sort of radiation doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
So let me dig into that here. And this is a great example, as Kamal was talking about, of these real-time dashboards you can build with Power BI. So here I have a bunch of sensors in my factory that are all emitting these values in real time. And not only can I see the latest values, but I can see all the history right here in one dashboard. Now, this really does show the latest view. So I'm not sure I'm really going to sit here and look at these all the time, but I might put this up on a display in an operations room or in a hallway.
And by the way, this actually happens. You didn't realize, for example, at Microsoft, when we manufacture Surface hubs, the factory runs Power BI. There's a white paper, actually, if anybody wants to go read it. But this is not just like some kooky, hokey, made-up demo scenario. But in reality, people run real-time live streams like this and monitor their businesses in very different ways.
Yeah, and so I can put this into full screen mode, and here, as you can see, my entire monitor is taken up with this real-time dashboard, perfect for seeing what matters most. Okay, so let's go back to my overview dashboard.
And this is different. I don't know what other BI tools you look at or use, but doing this is not easy. With Power BI, literally, it's a few clicks. And it's dead simple to go build one of these things. And it's not that you need to go off and understand great detail how to do streaming. Everything's set up, builds on top of Azure, and it's a few clicks to get it set up and going.
Great. Another thing I have in my dashboard is some information on flights. I like to think it's for vacation. I hope it's not because the radiation is spiking and I need to leave the city before that goes any higher. But this is another report built in Power BI, and this is an example of what we call a custom visual. So there are lots of visuals built into Power BI, but we also have community visuals, which are contributed by others in the community for very specific domain purposes or niche applications. And in this case, I have a visual that shows all of the outbound flights from Seattle and where they're going. And the width of this bar is proportional to the number of flights that go there. The great thing about custom visuals is they work very well with our built-in visuals. So as I go and look at the time that they depart from early morning to midday, it's going and cross-filtering, basically highlighting that custom visual itself. So not only can you use the built-in visuals, but you can go to our store in the Office store and look at many, many different, almost 100 different custom visuals that you can use for your own purposes. And if you have a development team that knows a bit of JavaScript, you can build your own custom visual for your own particular use. So it's a great way to really customize Power BI to meet your particular needs. Okay, so let's go back one more time to my personal dashboard. And there's one more tile in here I want to take a look at. So I have this report that is historical sales for my e-commerce store. And I want to talk about how you can consume this, not just in Power BI, but through a number of different Microsoft tools. And this really goes to our first-class integration with Office 365 and the rest of Microsoft's applications. So the first thing is really simple. I could hit File and Export to PowerPoint. So sometimes I don't want to show a live view. I want to export it to PowerPoint and craft a particular message around it, maybe include some other slides. So it's that easy to do with Power BI. Just click Export to PowerPoint, and we'll give you a beautiful-looking representation of all of the pages in your report. But there are other things we can do with Office as well. There are a lot of die-hard Excel users that love it, because it's a great tool for many kinds of modeling, and it's great with pivot tables, all these sorts of things. How many of you use Excel pretty much every day in your organizations? A lot of you. So, as you might expect, we have export data, and that exports to Excel or CSV. But basically, every tool has that. We have something even more special. We have something called Analyze in Excel. Analyze in Excel lets you create a live connection from Excel back to the underlying data that you've imported into Power BI. This means that you don't have to go and refresh your exported CSV every time your data changes. You can work with the live data all the time. So very easily, I could go and build a pivot table that has total sales, and maybe I'll do this by category here. And I could just look at this data as it is, but with the power of Excel, I could use this to create a really quick forecast. So maybe next year's projected sales, it's a really complicated formula. I'm going to take B2 times 1.25. You could do a lot more, but very simply, you can see we use the data from Power BI and the power of Excel to build a very simple formula. You can go many different directions with this using all the Excel features, their visualizations, their cube formulas, and everything to build a really powerful Excel spreadsheet that's directly connected. And again, the most important part is this is not static. You can go back and hit refresh, and it's going to bring you the latest data from Power BI all the time. So Excel is connected and always up to date with what you're doing in Power BI.
So any of you who have used analysis services in the past with Excel, right? yeah? Same idea. Just imagine the connection string now is pointing to a Power BI analysis services in quotes that's running behind the scenes in the service. So all we're doing is Excel is connected to this thing, and it's running just like in what you might have been used to using AS and Excel together. This pivot table is connected to a data model that's running behind Power BI.
Great. Our integration doesn't just end with the Office products. We integrate with a whole set of other Microsoft tools. And one example of this is Cortana. Cortana is your virtual assistant that gives you answers on the go, and it works with Power BI as well. You know, even if I wasn't in the Power BI interface, if I wanted an answer to a simple question like what my inventory levels were, I can just ask Cortana, and she'll give me the answer. So if I type in inventory levels for Bellevue store, it's going to go and search a bunch of different sources, including Power BI. And if I click that particular result, it gives me an inline answer. I don't even need to go to another application. I don't need to do anything. I'm going to see the answer to my question right inside the Cortana interface. Very quickly.
That is. Oh, it
Good.
loads it. Good.
The best part about this is that it's so beautifully formatted. I can create custom report layouts that work just with Cortana that have these nice cards that are very well optimized for this kind of display. Okay, so we've shown a lot of things, but there's still more to go. And there's one other major piece of the puzzle with Power BI, and that's what James Phillips in his keynote this morning was talking about with regards to closed-loop analytics. He showed a demo where the National Trust used an app, a Power app that they built, to collect data about the condition of buildings and apple trees in the field, and then push that data into Power BI. But closed-loop analytics also work the other way. You can take data in Power BI and turn that into action. So Power BI has a set of tools to let you alert on when important decisions need to be made, and also to automate many of those actions with a tool called Microsoft Flow. Let me show you a little bit about how that works. Okay, so here's that session count from my website, and it's gotten so bad, I never wanted to get this bad again, so I want to create an alert so that I'm automatically notified when I'm not really doing a good job on my website. So I'm going to go and click this little alert icon here, and I can very quickly create an alert so that if I have a low session count, that let's say it's below 100, I'm automatically going to get a notification. When I create this, every time that session count drops below 100, I'm going to get a notification up here in Power BI. I'm going to get an email, and I'll even get a push notification on my mobile device or on my Apple Watch if I have it. There we go. Yeah. So that's great if I go and find that, but I might even want to automate an integration. I might want to do something automatically if this alert gets fired. And that's where I'll introduce Flow here. So Flow is a tool that creates automated workflows between a whole bunch of different applications. And Power BI is one of these supported applications. We integrate deeply and easily, so it's just a few clicks to set up a workflow that might save you a whole bunch of time and make it so that you can go on vacation and not worry about your web performance while you're gone. Let me just quickly show you how it works. So I'll search for Power BI here, and you can see there are a whole bunch of pre-built templates for how you can connect Power BI to other applications. So for example, send an email to any audience when an alert is triggered. Or I can automatically create a task based on an alert. Or push to a Slack channel. Or using a new flow that we just introduced, I can push a message to a Power BI Teams channel. And that's what I'll show you right now. So when I click that, you'll see that Flow is automatically connected to my Power BI account and to my Teams account. And that's just the power of all of these Microsoft services working together. I don't need to do a bunch of manual steps to make it work. It's all just connected. So once I hit continue here, I have to fill out just a few parameters to get this working. So I get to choose which data-driven alert is going to trigger this flow. So I'll choose that low session count one that I just created. And then I get to choose which team channel I want to push a message to. So in this case, I have a Web Analytics vTeam here. And there's a special channel where we discuss all of our website performance called Analytics. And once I save this flow, it's just going to automatically run. And every time that alert is fired, it's going to push to my team channel. So if I go to Teams here, I can see it actually pushed right here. That's exactly right now, less than a second it took. If I scroll back, I can see an example of where this happened yesterday. You know, the session count was very low. It includes a link back to Power BI. I sounded the siren and told Siri to go look at it. And this is the power of Teams, that you can mention people and they get pulled into the conversation. And Siri went and investigated, and he found out that our social traffic was down and that he's going to go generate some new campaign ideas.
Very cool.
So you can include alerts directly in team channels, but you can also build whole reports into your team's experience. So I can click the plus icon here, go to Power BI, And I'm going to go down to my web analytics workspace and choose that e-commerce report I was showing you before. And very simply, I've now brought one Power BI report right into this experience. So I get contextual notifications and messages when alerts get fired, plus I have the full context of the report all inside of Power BI. So
amazing.
It's a bit of a whirlwind,
Yeah.
but that's a good overview of what Power BI can do and how we can do it differently.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's just switch back a bit. So that was the sort of first part of the session, in some ways, the Whirlwind tour of the various pieces. Of course, there are many sessions. We haven't talked about the desktop at all here. And there's a full-blown desktop drill down session that's available. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So with that said, so we covered a lot of these things now. We talked about the out-of-the-box SaaS content packs. We talked the real-time. We saw Cortana. You saw the custom visualizations. And you saw integration with Office and the closed-loop analytics. So all of these things we went over. Adam, step by step, took us through each of these. Obviously, you should go back and try it yourself. Most of these things are dead simple to try out. And there's lots of documentation and videos and all that on the site. Anytime you get confused what to do, powerbi.com. Everything's there. You get samples, you get live things to try out. There's a guided learning section in case you haven't seen this. And each of the things that you just saw today is well described for you to go and try out yourself out there. So with that said, now we're talking about, I guess, the second part, right? We did the whirlwind thing, and now we're going to go and dive in and talk about what's new, what's new, I guess, in the last, what's the time frame we're talking about?
Last few months, 3 months-ish.
Last 2-3 months, last quarter, of this year, and we'll go down and look at different parts and pieces. And Adam again is going to do this as I start to transition from that and talk about. We'll come back to this slide next, and so why don't you jump in and right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just go back to that slide then in a second. So there are a whole bunch of changes that have come to the Power BI service, and really we like to bucket them in a few different categories. This isn't an exhaustive list, but this is a sense of some of the big changes that have happened. One area is around helping users find their insights more quickly. Apps is a new way to distribute content broadly. We have email subscriptions that let you very easily get reports in front of users right in their email inbox, so they don't even need to go to Power BI. I'll show conversational Q&A, which is natural language on your phone, so you can get quick answers, and some more work we're doing with Cortana, so that it doesn't just bring back those basic answers to questions like my inventory levels, but can also bring back all your reports. So we'll talk about that first. Second, we'll talk about the capabilities to scale across your organization with Power BI. And the big news that we're announcing today that's available starting today is Power BI Premium. And then finally, we'll delve into some of the tools that can make it easier for you to do your jobs and your analyst teams that are building reports. Things like usage metrics, so you can understand how people are interacting with data and you can focus your efforts on the places where it's going to make the most impact. And some features like Service Live Connect that allow you to build multiple reports on top of the same data set. So we'll go into a lot of these details, but I think the important meta point to make is why are we able to iterate at such a rapid pace? And Kamal's going to talk a little bit about how we work and how this influences how innovation happens in Power BI.
So I think it's important to understand the sorts of things that we keep releasing very, very quickly. It's what Adam showed you. And with that in mind, the question really comes in is, hey, what exactly happens and how often should I expect updates, especially when you're new to Power BI and you've been using some other tool, much more sort of old school, if you will, where they update every 3 months or every year or whatever. Power BI is different. As I said before, it's a modern tool. And modern doesn't just mean in terms of the technology. Modern also means in terms of how it is built, how it's delivered, how it works. So the first part of this approach is that it's built iteratively. Every single day, we actually update the service, and every week, you start seeing updates sort of coming together in new value that you can get from the Power BI service. Every week, literally. You go to powerbi.com, you'll find something new. Every month, literally, you can time it. The first of the month, second, third, in that range, you can download a new version of Power BI Desktop, and it has a bunch of new features. Today, a new version went live, and you can see it's loaded with all kinds of things. And we're doing this constantly, every month, every week. We're building, we're iterating, and we keep doing this. Now, we do this based upon feedback. We're based on your feedback. Literally, there's in the Redmond campus, which is just across the bridge here, we sit and work. Every day, we're looking at feedback from user voice, You can go in. How many of you guys know about user voice and you can vote? Do you know this? No? Very few. You should go and go to, there's feedback, powerbi.com, I think it's called. You can go to our community site, and you can find various kinds of ideas people have, and you can vote for them. It's, I like it too, I like it too, I like it too. And the more votes we see, the more likely we are to go build that product. And the reason for doing that is simple. Imagine this metaphor. If I had an arrow and I hit a target and I shoot it, if I'm off by a fraction of a degree to start with, by the time it gets to that target, it's going to be off by a lot, right? Small angle, huge deviation if you're not accurate. That's how most companies build software, old school. They take a year in advance, 2 years, they think, they land it. By the time they land, the world has changed. We don't do that. Think about our arrow having little tiny micro thrusters. It flies and adjusts in real time as it's getting to the target. And those micro thrusters, that real-time feedback, is your feedback. You tell us through the votes that you give us on what needs to change. You tell us through our community and the feedback on the forums. And every day, literally, we go in and we start adjusting the product to make sure that by the time that arrow lands in the target, it's dead on. It's exactly what you asked for, is exactly what we deliver you. So very much in sync. And we have shipped over 450 features since we went live less than 2 years ago. Think about it. This product is at an amazing pace in innovating and changing, but it's not just randomly changing, it's changing based on what you want, so that when you go into your business, when you go and use the product, it's exactly what you want to do. So we work with you. That's how we build the product in a modern, agile way, right? With that said, let's now go and jump in. I think we'll go into the first part.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to focus on this first part now, and I want to talk a little bit about Power BI apps and really why we introduced it. If you've been using Power BI for a while, you'll know that we have very simple sharing built in. It's easy to get going. One button you click to share. You can enter someone's email address, and in a few seconds, they have access to a Power BI dashboard. This was great because it was low friction. People could get access to the content really quickly. You could also use it inside of organizations to share with security groups and other groups of people. But we've noticed and we've heard from you through many of these feedback channels that Kamal's been talking about that you've wanted more. Your Power BI deployments have grown. Maybe you shared with a few people, but now it's 10 or 100 or maybe even thousands in some cases. And you're looking for a more structured way to get your content to the end user's hands and to manage it. So apps is exactly that. It's on the opposite end of the distribution spectrum. Apps allow you to package up multiple kinds of reports and dashboards together into one app that's as easy for an end user to consume as clicking on something on their home screen on their mobile phone. You can group together related content. You can also stage changes so that you don't have to push things to your end customers while you're busy making changes on the go. And finally, you can have apps automatically available for users. So for example, a salesperson on their very first day in the company could have a set of apps that give them the the important reports for them in their job role and in their function. So I want to give you a quick demo of how apps works. I'm going to switch to the projection for that. Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you a demo of the navigation, because an important part of apps is how it fits into the overall information architecture of Power BI. This nav on the left-hand side is also relatively new. We released it in the last few months. And we did this with many of the feedback we've heard from our customers. We'd seen deployments start to grow, and many users started to have tens or hundreds of shared dashboards with them. And they used to clutter workspaces, but now we've separated them out into the special Share With Me area, where you can search for them easily. You can find dashboards that were shared by particular people, so much easier to find. We've also introduced some new features for you to take control over your own Power BI content. We have a list of your recent dashboards, reports, and data sets that you can access here. And you can also even favorite individual reports, and they'll show up in your favorites list. But now with apps, there's a new way to consume content. And if I click on the Apps tab in the left-hand navigation, I can see the apps that I have access to. Now, in the next few minutes, I'm going to create a new app, and we'll see how it shows up in this list.
Okay.
An important part about creating apps is the concept of app workspaces. And they're really the container, the place, where as an author of content, you build it, and you get it ready for publication to your end users. So if I expand my workspaces list here, I've already created this web analytics app workspace. And I've put inside of that app workspace all of the dashboards and reports that I want to distribute. App workspaces enable multi-user collaboration. So you can very easily go and edit your workspace and add additional members who also have permissions now to go in and collaborate on building these reports and dashboards for end users. Now, when you've built your reports and dashboards, you can start publishing your app. So there's a publish button here at the top right. I can click that. I can provide a very simple description for it. I'll say this is everything we need to run the website. I can choose a color scheme. I can also choose the landing page. And this is something that's very interesting with Power BI. Many of our customers use dashboards as a navigation paradigm. You create a dashboard with different tiles, and each of those tiles links out to more detailed reports. And so I can actually specify which dashboard a user will get by default when they click into an app. Finally, there's access control. I can make it available to the entire organization or only to specific groups. When I finish publishing the app, I'm given a link. This link I can take, I can put it in an email that I use to announce this to the world. I can embed this in a SharePoint portal. Or, if I want to, I can have users go and get the app themselves from AppSource. Okay, they can go click Get More Apps from AppSource, and they'll see that app in the list here. So here's that Web Analytics one, and they can go get it now, just like they would a SaaS content pack that we showed you before. So once I've installed that app, it's going to show up my apps list here. And here I can see I have a dashboard with some different tiles on it. And as I mentioned, as I click on each of these, it'll navigate me through to the underlying reports and dashboards underneath it. As an end user, I don't need to know all of the organization and structure. All I need to know is that I can click around and find the insights that I need really quickly. Apps don't just work on the web, they also work on mobile. So I want to show you how that works on the mobile device. So I'll switch over to number 7 here. So here I am on my iPhone. I have my Power BI app. And this shows me, again, the same thing. All of my favorites. I can see the content that's shared with me. And I can also see my list of apps. As this is the same list I saw on the web. And I can click into the Web Analytics app here and see the exact same tiles. One of the great things about the mobile app is that I can get quick answers to questions on the go. And one new feature we've added to the mobile app is something that's called conversational Q&A. This uses the power of natural language that we've invested in for over 2 years with Power BI to let me get very simple answers to my questions. So I can go and ask a question here like, show me the total sales in January. And then Power BI will go off and give me the answer right here, just like a chatbot would.
And so, hold on a second. So this is against your Google Analytics content pack, the app, same thing?
Yeah, it's using the same data. This is my e-commerce data, but it could have brought it back an answer from Google Analytics as well.
Okay.
Yeah. The great thing is it's conversational, so I can just add more things on the end. I can say for my cell phone category, right? And it will go and refine the answer and give me the more detailed answer right there. So very simple, just to ask a question and get an answer quickly in mobile. Now, if I find a problem, like with my sessions here on my website going to almost 0, maybe I want to go and have someone investigate it. I can do that right from my phone too. We have this great annotation feature. And once I click on that, I can go and draw something on here if that's really bad. I might even go and add like a frowny face, and given it's frowny, it should probably be red. And actually, this is really bad. It needs like 4 red frownies. Okay? And then I can hit share. And then I can just create an Outlook email and send that off to whoever needs to go investigate it. Right from my phone, I can take action based on that insight I found. So it all starts from Power BI apps, which are the way that you can distribute content very broadly within your organization, but then they can be consumed everywhere, on web, in mobile, in Cortana, with Q&A. All different ways to consume data depending upon the pattern and the user.
Very cool.
So that's a quick demo of apps. I'll switch back to the deck here, and we're going to talk a little bit about the next section. And that's how you can scale Power BI across your organization. We've made a whole bunch of announcements and releases here recently, things like new connectors. We've just GA'd our Amazon Redshift connector, and we have other connectors that we're releasing as well. These really enable you to connect to the enterprise data sources you already use. But one of the biggest announcements that we've made in the past few weeks and that we're announcing is available today is Power BI Premium. And do you want to talk about that a bit, Kamal?
Sure. So before I jump in and talk about Premium, I think it's fascinating to hear that Adam is doing a demo of Google Analytics. He's talking about connecting to Amazon Redshift. We have content packs on Salesforce. People always ask, hey, it's Microsoft. So obviously you work with SQL Server and you work with Dynamics. But what about everything else? Just go look at it. Look at the things you can do with Power BI. It's pretty much any data. It has nothing to do with Microsoft or not. And good examples are Redshift and Google. which historically you might not have seen as much support from a Microsoft product. So that's really important to think about. So now let's talk about Premium and what it does and why do we have it. So we announced this thing called Power BI Premium on May 3rd, so about more than a month ago. And today, this product offering has gone GA. It's available generally. You can go buy it, and you can start using it right now. So what does Premium do? So Premium is about giving you a dedicated capacity, right? So you can decide that for certain applications that you have in your organization, you want to have a dedicated set of resources that you can always use. And you saw in the keynote when Siri talked about it, and James gave you some more background there. But you can go and reserve that capacity so that your application can run with more refreshes, can be isolated from everybody else, and can have certain characteristics that allows it to be really, premium for the important users or for use cases where you want to go and have this dedicated capacity. Now, what's really important about this, though, is this is not just about reserving technical resources in the back end, but it allows you to break limits of who can consume it. Once you get a premium capacity set up, you can distribute it to anybody you want, anyone, without requiring a per-user license from them. That's important. You don't need to go off and buy a per-user, per-seat, $10 a month kind of a thing. All you do is you buy Premium, put a workspace on it as Adam did, and then anyone you want, inside or outside organization, can come in and use that capacity and the content that's on it. So very, very flexible when it comes to licensing. So that's really important to understand. I talked a bit about the scale and performance. Obviously, when you go and isolate something and make it run on its own set of resources, you can control how many people come on it. You need more people in. You can add more capacity. If you want to go off and have faster refreshes, you can add more capacity. You control the scale and performance by what you are willing to go put on that set of solutions where this premium offering is going to help you out. The other thing that's important is when you buy Power BI Premium, when you buy that premium capacity, you usually get two sets of capacities. One in the cloud. We talked about that. Right? You set up your workspace, and Adam showed this, and you saw it in the keynote where you can go and mark it as premium, and unlimited number of users can go use it, and you can keep having lots of refreshes, and all in the cloud. But you also get at the same time a equivalent set of capacity that can deploy on premises. There's this thing called Power BI Report Server. And you know what this is? Have people heard about this before, or is it new to you? New to most people? Okay. Well, one person. So this is interesting. You get a on-premises report server that you can install on your own hardware, on your own data centers, behind your own firewall, not requiring the cloud, that can run Power BI reports in that server on-premises. So you get both on-premises capacity as well as in the cloud, and you can decide which to use when. So in addition to the hybrid capabilities of Power BI, which exist today, where you can connect and hybridly get data, you can have a fully on-premises solution with no cloud required at all. So it's really important. That's new, and we added that as part of Power BI Premium. And the last piece of Premium is that you can go and take the work that you do in the Premium capacity and embed it inside anything you want using a same set of APIs that you are used to using with a SaaS service. We used to have two sets of APIs for those who are used to our embedded product, and we have converged all this into one single set of APIs, and you can start embedding things like dashboards. Very soon, things like the natural language thing. You can create custom applications that do not require the Power BI Chrome, the frame. And it can be running inside your mobile app, can be running inside your own set of internal applications. If you're an ISV, you can go create your own apps and distribute them outside. So all of these things come together in this Power BI Premium offering. And you should go check it out. Again, powerbi.com is your friend. All details there. We even have a pricing calculator. You can go and start seeing how much you need. If you're a large organization, this is an absolute steal because you end up paying very little because the number of users is essentially unlimited as you go use it. So that's about Premium. And I'll go back to Adam.
Thanks, Kamal.
He'll jump into the next
We've
thing.
lots more about Premium coming. There's another overview session on it at 11 o'clock and 2 other sessions on it as well later during the conference if you want to learn more. I want to switch now to talk about some of the tools we're creating to help you get your job done better. And the big focus of the last few minutes here is to talk about usage metrics. We know that it's important for all of you to understand how your great work, your reports and dashboards are being used inside of your organizations. And you might do this for a number of different reasons. One might be that you want to be able to evaluate the ROI in the investments you're making, figure out which reports are used well, which ones aren't used that much, and you might be able to get rid of. A second reason why you might want usage information is to look at who's using Power BI in your end user community and to identify those people that are building great content and to nurture that, kind of to crowdsource the development of many of your reports. A third reason you might do it is to meet your own compliance needs, to do investigations. Historically in Power BI, we started from the bottom up. We released auditing information for tenant administrators, and we had usage metrics, again, focused at the tenant administrators. This was great for some of these basic use cases, but we didn't put the information in the hands of the people who were building the reports themselves. But now we have an offering there, and it's called usage metrics for reports and dashboards. So now anyone that builds a report and dashboard can see very detailed information on how it's being used and make decisions about where to invest and what to not invest in. Let me show you a demo of how that works. So I'll switch back to my demo machine here. So here we can see that I have, again, Adam's personal dashboard. There's an icon here on the right that says usage metrics. And when I click that, it brings me into a report about my dashboard. It's really meta, but you'll get used to it. And it shows me some basic information like the number of views per day for this particular dashboard. It shows me the number of unique viewers per day. Well, guess what? This is exactly 1 because it is my personal dashboard. And the number of shares, which is 0 in this case. The great thing is you can slice it. You can go and slice it by how it's being consumed, whether it's through the workspace or through a content pack or app that you built. You can also look at whether it's being consumed on the mobile or web. If you're looking at usage metrics on a report, you can even go down and see which particular report page individual users are looking at. This is tremendously valuable to understand what's being used and what isn't. The other great thing here is you can actually see how your content ranks against others in your organization. So here, this particular report has a ranking of 4, of 91 in my organization, so I'm doing pretty well. I can even take, say, this total views tile here, and I can pin it back to my own dashboard, which, again, is kind of meta in itself. So now I can show the views of my dashboard on the dashboard itself. This is kind of cool to show how well your content's being used to the end users as well. Another great feature of usage metrics is that I can go and save this report and then edit it to my own heart's content. So once I've saved it, I can see that underneath this is a full data model. And it has information on the distribution methods, reports, and shares. And you can see this filter here. By default, it's filtered just to that one dashboard I was looking at. But if I remove this, I can now see the views, unique viewers, which is users, and shares per day across all content in my workspace. So now I can get a whole view. And if I'm looking at this in an app workspace, this gives me the whole view for my app itself. I can even build my own visuals here. So I might want to go and do something like, I don't know, let's go look at what I want to show here. Most popular content in my workspace. So I'll build the dashboard name and the views count, bring that on, and maybe I'll also bring on the views rank. And so very quickly I can build up my own report that shows me which of my content is viewed by the most or the fewest people. And in a second this should just load here. Yeah, so there we can go. So now I can see the rank of all my content and how many views it has. So not only is usage metrics a built-in feature for reports and dashboards, it's also an extensible data model that you can use for your own purposes. I have 6 minutes and one more demo to do, which I think is just the right amount of time. Let me just switch back to this window. So as you go and build apps, one important thing that you might realize is that you're going to build many different reports on top of the same data set. And this is really important because it means you can centralize all of those calculations, specific measures you build, things like total sales or average order size. You can put those in one data set. And you'll need to make a change in one place when that gets updated. But you might want to enable a whole bunch of people on your team to build reports on top of that. We have a new feature called Service Live Connect that lets you do that. So in this case, I'm just going to switch back to my app workspace here. I have one data set here, which is called the e-commerce sales data set. And if I open up Power BI Desktop, I have this new option to connect to it. So I can go to Get Data and go to Power BI Service. And then if I go back to that Web Analytics workspace, I'll see that e-commerce sales data set here. And when I hit Connect there, I can see all of the fields that come from that underlying data set. So I don't need to mess with those, but I can build a new report on it. So maybe I'm going to go ahead and add the month column here, and I'm going to add the sales amount down in sales here, maybe total sales. And I will change this into a bar chart. And this is going to be a channel sales report, so I'm going to add channel to it as well. Oops. So very quickly, I built a new report with a new visual on top of that same data set. Now I can take this and I can publish it back to my app workspace, so I can include it in my app. So I'll go ahead and save that and hit publish. And once that's done, I can go back to Power BI here, and if I go back to reports, we'll see that we now, if I refresh this, we have that channel sales detail report back up in my workspace. Now, this is a great feature. You can build lots of reports on top of the same data set, but it can also be a challenge, because now when you make changes to your data sets, you need to understand the impact. What other reports have used it? Who do I need to talk to make sure that these changes are going to be compatible? We have a new feature called Related that lets you very easily see that. So if I go to my e-commerce sales data set here, I can click the related content view here, and I can see all of the dashboards and reports that are built on top of this, including that channel sales detail report I just created. So a very easy way for you to understand the impact of changes you're making to your data model.
Very cool.
One more thing I want to show, and it's back here. So I published this report. There's one other great thing I can do with Service Live Connect that I didn't show, and that is, let's say that for my different channels, online, for web, for resellers, I want to look at the return rate, because I think that some of my channels are having a higher return rate than usual. You'll notice I didn't have return rate as one of the pre-calculated measures here. But with Live Connect, I can go and add it. So I can create a new measure here, and I can call it something like return rate. Whoops.
There it is, measure.
Did you see it? Oh, let me just do that once more. I think I clicked twice. So I'll hit new measure here. I'll call it return rate, and it's going to be the sum of the return amounts divided by the sum of the sales amount. Okay, very easily I built that new measure, and maybe now I'm going to create a chart of return rate by channel. And this is, so this very easily, I just built a graph there, but under the covers, what we did is we created a new measure just for this report. It's called report measures. So if you're building a report and you need to add new calculations, you don't always need to go back to the underlying data set to do it. Now, in the context of one report, you can add additional calculations or metrics you need just for that report.
That's pretty important. You're not just doing it sort of personally in your own report. You're actually adding a new measure to the data set.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really lets you put the measures in your core data sets that are important to use across all reports, but still gives you the flexibility to add new calculations for individual reports as you need them.
Cool.
Okay, that also felt like a kind of a whirlwind set of demos too.
Yeah, that's pretty fast.
But we just have a few more minutes to sum up, so I just wanted to end with a few details that will kind of anchor you in where you can go forward. One, Kamal pointed to a number of resources that are especially useful if you're a new Power BI user. And they really fall into three categories. First, if you're going to learn, powerbi.com and the blog at blog.powerbi.com are great resources. Every time we release a new feature on the service or on the desktop, we post there. So this is a great resource to understand what's coming just at the speed of light as it happens. Second, the community.
Yep.
That's a great place to go to interact with 300,000 other of your peers every month who use that and post topics. You can ask questions about your business, about the ways that you use Power BI, about features, and there will be people there to help, both in the community and members of the engineering team. We all monitor it ourselves. And then third of all, as Kamal mentioned, a lot of what we do is based on the feedback we get directly from you on user voice. So you can go to ideas.powerbi.com to vote for existing ideas that you care about and also to create your own. So that's it for the session today. I encourage you all to take the next step. It's a long conference, but I hope you get a lot out of it. There are a couple things I want to highlight. First, if you have your own Power BI question, there's something called Ask the Experts. If you pre-registered for that, great, but I know there are also some walk-up sessions, and that gives you some one-on-one time with a member of the Power BI engineering team to ask questions or work on particular problems with your report. And then second, we have a whole set of sessions. Here are 4 drill-down sessions that I selected based on some of the content that we talked about today. But there are just a ton of sessions, including those by the engineering team and those by a number of our customers who are presenting their own Power BI solutions. So thank you again for joining us at the conference. New Year's is old, and I hope you have a great time.
Thank you, Adam. Very nice. Thank you.